Welcome to 221B Baker Street by way of the Southgate Bridge. I am your host, Zachary and Sherlockian, and with me, of course, it's one of my very soul regulars, Mr. Jesse.
Hello. Jackson. How you doing? Are you ready to do some sleuthing, some detecting, or talk about it?
I thought so.
Yes.
Of course, we are talking about episode 2. And worth several cities. Very good one. Now, we start right off with Watson apparently has helped Shinwell get a new place.
Yeah, this is interesting, this relationship. You know, I've been thinking a lot of our last discussion of, you pointing out to me that maybe my theory he was going to shoot himself not correct. And either way, she's doing something to make him, she has done something to make him feel better of himself or feel a little more helpful. And so I think it's really interesting, this sideline, and I hope they stick with it because I like the Shinwell character, and I like seeing the part of Joan. What do you think?
I'm curious to see where they go with this. I don't know why. Even though there's not really been there's only been slight indications. It'd be very interesting if this is leading her starting up a medical practice in the Brownstone.
Yeah, you mentioned that last time that she doesn't have to be a surgeon; she could still be a doctor. So this is going to be good.
So it basically just got for a second. I thought he was going to explain. It was just his tone, really, but then I realized he was just saying it was just. But he seems content, and I wouldn't expect it from these writers because these writers, again, one of my favorite things about the show, they never do anything really that doesn't have a reason or an intention. So I don't think they're going to do the whole cliche. He just fails. Something's going to happen. I'm curious to see what it's going to be.
Absolutely.
So from there, we get a scene. Sherlock is brought out with the back of a car, and we see, especially for Jesse and for me, we see a familiar face, don't we?
We do.
We see John, and you should be able to say his last name. He used to host the Castle podcast.
It's Espo from Castle. Yes, it is, and this was such a great surprise for me, and one of the really, I think, greatest things about Castle was Ryan and Espo and their kind of buddiness.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could go off on why I like them. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention before we get out from the last scene is how she got the apartment. So obviously she has an ongoing relationship with her sister, which is I'm glad we got to mention that.
It was very interesting, and I also I think it's interesting, and I know that this isn't a family drama, but I'm always like, remember we had the previous year, season 2, when we find out that her stepfather had been writing books, right? And explicit books about. So it's always interesting to see Joan's family life, and especially compared to Sherlock's family life, and how they're both very dysfunctional, but in different ways.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's worth mentioning is Joan's sister is a completely created character for the show, in that she wasn't like, oh, my sister. No, this is someone they brought in as a new family member, and that is not always done well. And I think they're doing it okay here.
Absolutely.
So, we go back to Esposito, or as I'm calling him in this, El Doodle.
Yeah.
Only a cartoon, a high-ranking gay could have that on his face, and you're just going, dude, you have something right there.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I would love to tweet the writers or at least message them and find out if the tattoos they chose were random, or, cause, obviously in a lot of gangs I obviously know about face tats, but I didn't know there were cartel leaders that, I don't know if it's true, but knowing the show, it just might be, like were that intricate, because like in Russia every single tattoo means something. And I know it's weird, but their tattoos almost made me think of like Samoan tattoos.
Yeah, I could see that. I agree.
Yeah, so I like how Sherlock says right to him, "You're not gonna kill me."
Yeah, and I love one of the nice things about this, and it's in the books and in the show, is this understanding, reading the room, knowing the things and the circumstances, of being that cocky and explaining why. You're not going to do this because blank, 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 blank. And how I always, it's TV, but you sometimes wonder if someone would just go, you know what, you're right, but I'm just going to surprise you and shoot you.
In real
Yeah.
life, I would not be surprised.
Because
in real life,
you've ticked me off so much.
Now, look now. Apparently he brings him to a scene of a little something. A little is going on. Apparently he's got some men down, and not only his men, but smuggler work with. So he wants him to find out who. And he tells him, and of course Sherlock bangs something right off that. It was obviously done by a professional. But then he's saying, "Why should I help?" He's like, "I'm not giving you a choice." But he says, "Yeah, but you want to use me so I can delete." But what is Sherlock isn't in the whole, "Oh, you're a bad guy, not having lives." He's like, "No, I'll do this, but you got to do something for me."
Yeah, and I think Sherlock's moral code is complicated. It always has been, and that's he's self-serving, he's selfish, and kind of back a couple weeks ago, we all watched The Godfather, the original. Sure. My son had never seen it, and so he was like, "Oh, enjoyed it," but the idea of you plant favors because you never know when you're going to need someone, and I think Sherlock, right? He goes, here's an opportunity for me to have someone in my debt, or
he does apparently, what he wants is, and it's funny because this is the second show I've seen this season and it was on a different network even, that mentioned heroin laced with ketamine. Or wait, no, what was it? The drug that was laced with?
I do not remember.
God, I can't believe I should have made a note. Yeah. But it was they had a Chicago PD, but I mean, it's not like, because Sherlock would never help a thing like, he would never help them eliminate the competition, but he is helping them because one, he's still catching a murderer, and two,
yes,
he says to them, "I want to know who's now." Obviously, what Sherlock intended, and we'll talk about that more later when we get to it, is that he probably was going to just build a case and turn him into the authorities.
Yeah.
Although I wonder if part of them suspected that what happened was a possibility.
I don't know. That's a good question.
So he makes, see, and that's one thing I like about this, because you don't rise that high in a cartel without being at least somewhat smart. So he makes the deal with Sherlock and hires him to do the job. So, which Watson just loves.
Yeah, he does.
And Sherlock apparently calls in, and I just love this, a helicopter favor.
Yeah, like, what the heck, right? You never know.
It's not even just having someone do a flyover and sending the tape. He got live footage.
Yes, it is. Well, you never know. We irregulars have we are a multifaceted group, and you never know who he might have on his team, and he can pull to get whatever he needs.
I really don't get these countries and like the little island nations that keep the flags of like the French, the Dutch, the British. It's like, I think it's time to change it.
Yeah.
But okay, so they track, because I've heard of this before, like people using chicoteras for the smuggling using different flags. So they catch the captain, and I love this guy. I love this smuggling captain, because he's like, I did it, I did everything. You don't need no questions. Give me the handcuffs. Gotta go. Okay, have a nice day.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a cost of doing business almost. It was very cool.
Oh, we should make mention of the clue. I can't believe I skipped this. And Sherlock does a quick sweep of the scene earlier, realizes crystal meth was stolen, and I love when he just pushes over the fake shipping crate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, so he's looking for crystal meth, and then he finds a boot print, which he shows to Watson, turns to be Korean, which is what led him to the ship. So we get this guy confessing, and he's like, he knows he's going to jail, but he still has family, but he tells him he's a smuggler, he's not, and they realize later he's not a killer, that they were in competition with the man who got killed. So that he says, like, he stole from us, so we stole it back and we tailed him, but he was dead when they got there, so they took their drugs and left. Which the police believe. So they start looking, and interestingly enough, use the smuggling captain's evidence, or surveillance, I should say, they find a home that he visited several times, and could be a house of a mistress, which is odd because he's not married, so they go to the house, and it turns out he had a gay lover, which again, for a cartel leader, very prejudiced, so he would have to keep that secret.
Yeah.
So they're talking to the guy, and they're looking into what it is, and Holmes actually, and because there's apparently he found, because another thing the smuggling captain said was there was something in a box given from a high-ranking party official in North Korea, and that was also stolen too. So someone else must have stolen that. So they start looking at that. Turns out the smuggler had it, and he was trying to sell it, so that's probably what he was killed for. And through the investigation of the house, Holmes figures out it was the imperial seal of China.
Yes, which is a very interesting MacGuffin, as Hitchcock used to say, and which led to this was some interesting interactions that Joan and Sherlock had from the different people, right?
Yeah, but I would like to mention, because I looked it up, there really is an imperial seal, and it really is lost.
Very nice. I was wondering about that.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, that sounds like something real. I looked it up. It is real, and it's lost. It's still lost.
Oh, okay.
It's like there have been many times people are like, I found it. Nope. So they start looking into that. But while he's doing that, Watson is helping Shinwell doing all the final details in the apartment, and Shinwell actually asked her to help track down his daughter. This is like, I know it's weird about this storyline. It's like right on the needle. It could so easily become cliche. You know what I mean?
I do. But
this show's not like cliche, so I'm not that worried. Right. And he wants to find Dara because apparently the woman he was with was using drugs. So he just wants to find her. And some men show up and call Joan by her Chinese name, and the way she reacts, it's really interesting. Like it's almost like she was offended.
Well, and I also think she's, I don't know if it's supposed to be common knowledge of her Chinese name or not. So, yeah,
I'm not sure how that works, like legal-wise, if like on a birth certificate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure I did. I mean, Lucy, but I don't know. There's just so many underlying subtleties to this question. I wish I could ask the writers about. What's interesting about this actor, that he's the same guy, I'm pretty sure, that plays the Chinese ambassador in Madam Secretary.
I was going to bring that up. He is, and he is awesome in Madam Secretary.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, just this whole, a great poker face, and sits there and doesn't show anything and is so reserved. So, it was good to see him. And would have liked him to have a little bigger part, but I know that wasn't
Yeah.
the case. But I think he's a fascinating actor and does a great job on that.
Yes, and so I know the scene was very good, and I like I like when Jones was like, "You gonna tell me what it is?" Nope.
Yeah.
Bye. And offers her $50 million. Let me tell you something. I believe myself to be a man of moral character, but yeah.
Well, what is the old joke? A man and a woman talk together, and he says, "Would you sleep with me for $5 million?" And she says, "Yes." He goes, "Would you sleep for me with $5?"
Oh, I think I know
Yeah,
this
and
one.
she says, "No. What kind of person you are?" He said, "We've already established that. Now then, we're just haggling over price." I I would like to think I'm ethical too, but if you have FU money on the table, I, I don't know what I don't know if I wouldn't want to oops, you know? Yeah.
uh, but yeah, so, and Joan figures out they're from Taiwan, and again, and they say this again for the Chinese later, that obviously they're probably not the ones who did the killing, because they wouldn't be offering to pay for something they already have.
Hmm.
And so Holmes, looking through Ray Torres' phone records, realizes that he's obviously trying to auction off, so he looks into the carrying company and figures out where the buy was, or the auction, or
Yeah.
whatever exactly was going on there. And we get another clue here while they investigate before that, I keep doing this, that I want to make a note of how Shinwell was pretty protective of Watson.
He was, which is good.
Yeah, see, like, I'll be saying a lot because he's in the episode a lot. I cannot wait to see where they go with him.
Yeah.
It's gonna, I have my guesses, but really, it could be, I don't know, I'm guessing it's gonna be, so, we get a clue here of bent metal, that the only thing that could have bent would have to be, like, the weight of a tank, which obviously someone would have noticed, but Sherlock figures out that it is actually an armored car, a very expensive armored car.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting, and this what I found interesting is we knew they're not going to take the money, but you still had the dynamics of the character and what to happen with this. Are they going to get this to the right people, and how is this going to be acting? So, yeah, just wonderful.
And so it turns out the one with the Astor Foundation, and they get some mentions of everyone, and that he was connected to that. So they go to ambush him. I love it. It's just like, we're gonna ambush him, and they do. It turns out to be interesting little actor choice. Ron Rifkin playing the CEO, Wayne Vax.
Yeah, he's always, and we have talked about this sometimes. The problem you have with procedural is when you have well-known guest stars, are they a red herring? Or are they they're going to be the villain, the killer, or whoever. So yes, always good to see Ron Rifkin, and we'll talk a little bit more, but it was good to see C again.
Yes, so they confront Ron Rifkin, trying to ask him questions, and when they get close, he's just got everything ready. Turns out he's got a restraining order ready, which I thought very funny, and it turns out it's left over from, again, the Atherton case, because he knew he had the force, he made it up then and just kept it, which I didn't even know was, like, legal to, like, do that with a restraining order.
Yeah, you wonder sometimes, maybe not. Yes, but they may have been pushing a little bit on this show, but it made for a great scene.
Well, I mean, I don't know the rule. Like, I know you can renew a restraining order, and obviously with his connections, but I wonder, can you renew his restraining order, like, and just not tell the other person? Because again, if you make a restraining order and they don't come near you, you don't really have to enforce it.
Right.
So. But again, it's like Sherlock almost admires the fact that he's like the foresight of keeping it. And I just found it funny. I just picture other CEOs going, "Oh, Sherlock Holmes, get the Sherlock Holmes restraining order ready."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they need everyone's help to unlock secrets about Vox. And what's interesting about it is because he's the exact type of person they hate. And we found out later. They say it here and they say it later. They do it without a favor.
Yes.
So while they're discussing this, there's a knock on the door. And apparently, it's the Chinese trade. I believe it's the trade minister's daughter sending a message that China is richer than Taiwan.
And she's kind of, she is truly just the messenger. Right? Yeah.
And I just love this. It's one of those diplomat kids who gets to use the American school system while their father is probably across town denouncing the American system.
Right.
And I looked up this. I wasn't able to find too much on her because the name I found interesting because her name's Annie Q.
Mm-hmm.
Which is I don't know if it's a connection, but I find it interesting because there's another very good Asian American actress called Maggie Q. Not sure if there's any connection because the reason her name is Q because her name is Quigley and she knew her Chinese fans might have a problem pronouncing it. So I don't know if this. I've tried to find information, wasn't able to find out what her real name is. Or her last name, I should say. So I think, okay, now, did I mishear the episode, or did they get offered $1 billion?
At that point, I was thinking of, oh shoot, now I'm drawing a blank. Mike Myers and his $1 million.
Oh, God.
It was almost hilarious at this time.
Yeah, so and then we find out, and Sherlock, of course, has been ducking Halcyon? I'm not even sure I pronounced anything in here.
Mm-hmm.
El Doodle summons him, and again, it's weird how it talks about murder and stuff, but it's very business-like.
Yeah.
And he tells him, "I didn't come here to get an update. I came here to give you one." I like how he shows him something, and Sherlock just goes, "Who is that?" And it turns out it's the dealer who sold the bad heroin.
Mm-hmm.
And Sherlock, like, "I wanted you to find it." It's like it doesn't matter. We took care of it. But he also did it for kind of a message. He said, "This is someone it wasn't personal. I did it to conduct business. Imagine what I'll do to you if you cross me."
Yeah.
And Sherlock, obviously, like he's like, I don't. It's hard to read Sherlock in this, but he tells Watson about. He's like, "Oh, by the way, he threatened you too."
Yeah. By the way, here we go.
So and I love how Watson is especially preparing food for Clyde.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it weird how they always take the trouble in this show to show us that, like they had the camera follow her feeding Clyde.
I do think that's interesting. I also think they do a lot of stuff in where her making tea or in the kitchen, and that's but they're gonna cook or eat and everything. So that's very cool. Always good to see Clyde. Always good to see Clyde getting fed.
Yes. So, with the help of everyone, Sherlock finds a case apparently some kind of mind collapse, and just with a megaphone announcing, which I love how no one around there is even batting an eye to. And but there's like that's big. She's like, the big deal. This case is decided, but he says he's also found names of people that it's not public knowledge, and that gets a reaction. And I love how, and like when he gives it a list, he's like, "You're bluffing," and I'm just thinking, never say that to Sherlock.
Yeah, never. Horrible.
And this is just Johnny Miller is having fun with this scene because I love the way he slowly takes up the megaphone. Like, come on, call my bluff. Come on.
Yeah. Go ahead. Do you want to?
All right. So it gets Locke's attention, and I love the way he's just bowling. It was just slinging it. He's like, oh, I called you up because I want to help you. It's like, oh yeah. And it turns out he's claiming to be the legitimate I love the balls on this guy. He's claiming to be the legitimate owner of a stolen artifact. He's like, look, this is proof that, I should have looked. I wanted to see if that whole artifact law thing was true. But, he's like, because it was, and Sherlock knows it was smuggled 2 days ago. It's like, that's for the courts to decide. The funny thing is Sherlock found someone in not even a day that could dispute the paperwork. So but again, he didn't want to, we find out later, that doesn't matter, but, so he tells him that he wants him to find it because he believes himself to be the rightful owner. Which Sherlock knows is bold, but we'll get back to that. So from there, it turns out Watson has managed to track down, dang it, I didn't write down her name, the girl, Shidwell's daughter's I think they said it was an aunt?
Yeah.
So, the woman very justifiably says, no, I don't want her anywhere near Shinwell, because, again, it's one of those interesting things because if Shinwell is sincere about his changing, and it looks like he is, the aunt only knows him as the drug dealer, and Watson, well, she saw him get shot, but she didn't know him as a dealer. So she only knows him trying to find redemption. And I think that's an interesting aspect of this scene. Because both are right.
Yeah,
both of them are right.
You are so right, and Zach, and I think that's a really key point, is that it's easy for us as an audience member to say, oh, look, he's trying to turn his life around. Why aren't you giving him a second chance? But there are, in real life, and there are people that have burned through their second, third, and fourth chances. And that it is hard to be forgiving and to be trusting of someone. I always thought this was very well done of the show to give us the other side, that maybe this guy is sincere, but what if he isn't? And what if Joan is being naive and wanting to believe in the best of someone? So I like that idea, and I like that made this story and this storyline in this character a little more complicated and gives us a little more depth.
And I don't mind if they have him falter. It's just to me it'll all be in how they do it, whether or not, you know what I mean? Like if he falters, how he does it. But again, we can only speculate. So we see that the expert Holmes comes in to dispute the provenance, which is, I don't know, it's such a fun word to say. And it's actually C, played by the very talented and lovely Jane Alexander. And I just love how she just wants to keep everything it's like, oh, no, the way she said that, oh, no names. And I really think kind of like what Castle did, what the writers need to do is write the letter. I want to see the letters between C and Holmes.
Yes.
Oh boy, but she looks into it and she tells him these are the buyers, these people are murderers, but she knows that there is one of them that would kill to get the artifact because through her own, and I like how she forms her own hypothesis, and I find that very interesting.
So one of the write-ups, actually for the AV Club, said I'm looking real quick to see that, to give credit of who wrote it, and I don't see it right off him. And a quote said, "It was very nice to see C again, and she has this entire deductive business on lock. I'd like to imagine she's the star of a show elsewhere abroad, and this is a crossover from that imaginary show." And I went, "Yeah, I could see that. I would watch that show with Shane Alexander."
Well, I forget what exactly what her job is in her character, but working in a museum, being a like that is someone you got to deduce history,
Right.
really. You got to know things, so it makes perfect sense that she would be
Yeah.
like that. So she gives him a name of this family apparently that deals, and the guy has a bad history, and she says there's only one place. I like how they say there's only one place in Asia that you would go that you'd be completely cut off from everyone else, and that's North Korea. So they actually all three of them together kind of deduce that what must have happened is he bought the seal and the North Koreans smuggled it in for him, and then it got stolen. And when he found out about the auction, he might have not liked to have to sell a device that he smuggled in. So they go and confront him, and it turns out there's already cops there. It turns out he was killed. And I love when he's like talks about the murder weapon, and he's like, "Yeah, I already bagged it." And Shock just looks at him like, "What?"
Mm.
Like, and it's not easy to face Sherlock, but that did it.
Yeah, it did.
And it's like listed. I mean, the layers of this case is fascinating.
Yeah, it is. Because there, as you said, the layers and the complexity upon complexity has been really interesting. I really think they could have taken a lot of this story and used it in different episodes.
Completely.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, there's the murder of the smugglers, the cartels, it's an ancient Chinese artifact. I really should. I mean, this is why I should have had Lilith Hellfires here. She's good at looking up who writes what episodes, and so they figure out it makes absolutely no sense that that the seal was left there, and I do like how even Marcus is like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense to me either.
Yeah.
So, but they figured out the only reason for them to do it would be the killer wanted the seal to be returned to China.
Yes.
And there's only one thing to him that explains it. So using the trade minister's daughter, he realizes he figures out that Vox's company is gonna profit from a deal with China. Although, really, it's the funny thing when you think about it. There is absolutely, I mean, if the Chinese keep their word, fine. Well, again, they could, I guess they could, but China could have been like, change mine, you don't get the minerals. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
But again, there probably was paperwork, but, we find out that Vox is actually broke because of the aforementioned mining collapse. So he needs some more money or he's screwed. And interesting enough, Sherlock is able to sneak in because he has a new security team because the other ones has shipped off to Morocco.
Yeah.
And I just love this scene because he's like, okay, say it is true. And he tells him, like, you let the Jade Seal be returned to China because that's how, because it couldn't have been the Chinese, because if it was, they would have taken it, put it in diplomatic pouch. So you did it because you wanted to be the one that would return it, so you could get the mineral rights. And he's like, say if that's true. He's like, and he says, do you have any proof of this? And I love Sherlock's face when he goes, I do not.
Yeah.
Because, and you know what, not too much before, but before this happened, I had a feeling this was going to happen with whoever the villain was.
I did not have that, but that's great.
I mean, just when I'm like, this guy, because then he shows him the pictures of a mutilated man, and he says to him, these guys who don't care about the art, they care about that you killed someone that affected their business.
Yeah.
And he gets him, he's like, you wouldn't dare. I wonder if Sherlock would have. I actually am not sure if he would. This is one of those things where they obviously threatened, but would he? Because even though, of course, he wants this man brought to justice, would he actually, do it? Tell the cartel that's him. Well, actually, he would have to, or they would come after him. So it's an interesting. Imagine if he had called his bluff.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a bluff.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's good.
So obviously the guy made the deal. Now, before that, we go to Shinwell, and she tries to tell him, I wasn't able to find her, but it turns out he found her herself, and she's like, and Shone's about to say, oh, if you want to, but then Shinwell surprises, like, I'm guessing I'm not the only one, the audience too, where he says, no, I'm not going after, it's not the right time, and like, there are a lot of people out there who he's self-aware. If more people were self-aware like him, they could change themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I again, this is why I'm really liking this character, and I cannot wait to see where he goes.
Agree.
Now from there we go back to the brownstone, and here's one thing I want to make a note of. Okay. Let me tell you something. The cartel is gonna kill him. I know they'll never address it again. The cartel is gonna kill him. Or do something to him. The cartel is, no. It's just, they're not gonna be like, sure, we'll leave him alone. No.
Yeah.
Cartels are not known for their forgiving nature, even in the real world.
That's correct.
No, you would, at the very least, they torn, or something. No. But what we see is from the Dye impressions earlier that Sherlock kept a souvenir, and I love that because that is so classic Holmes. He had I believe in the original canon he even called the souvenirs his museum. Like it's where he kept like different keepsakes and knickknacks from his various cases.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that was really nice, and yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I wasn't. No, I just. Well, that's pretty much the end of the episode. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so before final thoughts, I'll skewer in some of my favorite moments in quotes. Sherlock with the chalk line with the restraining order was definitely one of them.
Yes, it was, and it was really cool. I really liked Shinwell, just staring at his daughter playing soccer, and not, because we had talked about with his, the relative, like, this is a bad guy, and then he's sitting there going, I haven't earned the right to meet her yet, but for now, it's just good to just see her out there playing. So I was glad for that.
Another line I liked was, blow up that bridge when we come to it.
Yes, great line.
And my last favorite line is, this is one of those things that it almost sounds like it should be racist, but it's really not. He said when El Doodle calls him Holmes, he's go, Holmes, are you calling me by my name, or is that short for? And then he lets it trail off. So overall, this show really can do layers quite well, and the side stories were good, character development, and I didn't know where it was gonna go. I was even surprised a few times in the show, which always pleased me. So I even think this show has pretty decent rewatch value. So I'm giving this one definite high marks. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. This was another, good episode. The second of the season, they're on a nice roll. I would give this, and I know you love when I do this, God. 8 bull horns from across the street, so you don't break the restraining order.
I'm surprised you didn't go for Jade Seals.
I thought that was a little bit too much.
Now you're gonna show some. Because Jesse is known for anything. It's self-control when it comes to his naming game.
Exactly.
Give me a. Oh God. Okay. So, So I think that sums it up pretty good. Very good episode. So that's it. So now, Jesse, how can they find you on social media?
I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. If you want to hear me talking about Doctor Who, I co-host Next Stop Everywhere on this fine network. And then you can hear me babbling on about Bruce Springsteen on Set Listing Bruce, also on Southgate Media. And yourself, sir?
You can always find me anywhere, all over the place. Facebook, Twitter is Instagram Insanity. And always, and of course, check out Sasumi and all the podcasts I host. And so that is all for this episode. And stay tuned because the game is afoot.